This is Help, I'm a Contractor podcast. Hi, I'm Seth Lewis. I am a blue-collar business coach. Finally, someone that understands what contractors actually go through. My goal and vision is to connect business owners with knowledge while tackling some of the industry's toughest challenges. Please subscribe to my content and let's support each other to create awareness for our industry. Check out what I have going on at www.bluecollarbusinesscoach.net. Check out my book that has helped business owners across the country change their business and their life. But for now, it's time for the show. Let's get it. Today on the show, I'm really excited. This is going to be a great episode. I have Sam Veith that's on the show from the Horton Group Construction. And he is passionate about keeping employees safe and helping business owners grow without setbacks. Keyword setbacks. You don't want setbacks. He's going to be talking today about the 4 keys of success to maintain the best rates in insurance for the long term. This is something that all business owners have to have and need to listen to. So without waiting any further, we'll bring Sam on the show. Welcome to the show today. How are you?
Great, Seth. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, construction, tell me a little bit about why construction and how you got into construction.
Got into it when I was, 6, 7 years old, pulling wire with my dad, he was a Chicago fireman, but did electric on the side and, kind of had to go help out on side jobs. So, that was my first stint with it. And then during my high school and summers from college, I worked for a maintenance company. So we did everything from flooring to building fences to remodeling bathrooms and kitchens. And, I got some really good incentive to finish my college career. But sure enough, as soon as I graduate, the recession was there. And the first job I found after college was actually selling construction technology, which I had no idea even existed. Like, you think of contractors, but technology was being adopted more and more in 2009, 10, and it's becoming very prevalent now. But from there, I worked in technology about 6 years. And from there, I made a move to heavy equipment sales and rentals with Sunbelt. So that was a great experience, getting boots on the ground experience on commercial job sites. And that's really where I got my first experience with a in-depth safety program with Sunbelt. They had, probably a best-in-class safety resources, and that was great. And then I always say I wanted to torture myself a little more as a salesman. So I got into the insurance business, but it's been going great. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would you say, you've seen a lot of different avenues of construction. Was there any consistent theme or something that stood out at your different stops along the way?
Not really, but it's just, my main takeaway is, the construction guys really want to just focus on building and doing their job and in the field. When it comes to doing something on the computer or insurance, they absolutely hate it. It's a necessary evil a lot of times in their mind. And right now it's a critical time because we're in a hard market environment and insurance rates are only going up. So anybody with claims could have issues. And that's why we're here to talk about how to avoid, basically, to get better rates, you got to have no claims or very minimal claims. So we're going to talk about how to avoid those claims and keep you in control of your insurance costs, because we're just seeing really, really tough times for the folks that have had a few claims now. So, that would be my main takeaway is, when I was in the field with Sunbelt, working with construction owners, that's where they thrive and that's where they really want to spend their time. So everything else could just be a headache and a setback. And hopefully we could help everybody avoid some headaches and setbacks.
When you think about like a safety program, and we'll dive into a little bit more of the, insurance part and what that looks like. I think, I mean, there's all different people that listen. So you have a lot of small business. It could be one or two people. It could be, larger and big organizations. So safety is a big thing. What did that safety program look like? And what do you define as a good safety program? Because a lot of organizations might be smaller and they're really not paying attention to safety. And I'm sure this will lead to some of the insurance stuff, but safety is a big deal.
It's huge. It's honestly, it's the single biggest thing that'll help you. There's four keys to success, but my number one is safety culture. And what I like to say is basically when you're smaller, it's better to really implement a safety plan and really get that safety culture started on the right track. Because if you could build a foundation of safety, then it's just easier and easier to grow from there on out. So, some of the best in class businesses and owners that I've worked with, they've said that, all accidents are preventable, or there's no such thing as an accident. So really it's the ownership, and it's got to be a top-down mindset where it permeates through the whole organization. The organizations that I see that struggle, the owners aren't really that involved talking about safety, or it's just an afterthought. So the more these business owners could really wrap their heads around getting their employees home safe every night, and doing good, from a safety culture perspective, just the better things will be.
When you say safety culture, I never want to assume people understand what that means. So we use a lot of these words like culture and leadership, and there's a lot of these buzzwords. But in your own words, how would you describe a safety culture? What does a safe culture look like?
Communication, number one, just having somebody who's an owner that's willing to talk about risks on different aspects of the job. Right from hiring, is there a safety training that people have to go through? It could be a brand new person just getting into the industry. If you're going to throw them into a job site right away, they might be overextending themselves in ways, their body really can't handle. There was a story where there was a demolition job, and it was a college kid who was a football player, first day on the job, just going nuts with a sledgehammer. And all of a sudden he hits his hand and tears a ligament in his finger, and he had to have surgery. And, he didn't really get to work much the rest of the summer, and it was a big work comp claim. So if the owner had done a little bit more on the first day, or just kind of pulled back and say, hey, we need to review safety first, then that claim wouldn't have happened. So it really starts from the hiring process, on day one, to show the commitment to safety and why it's important to the employees. A lot of employees might just think owners are out for themselves, but really it helps everybody. It helps the business, but it helps everyone go home safe and in one piece every day.
When you think about this, and you said insurance is a necessary evil, when you look at that, why do people not put emphasis on this? Are there some, common mindsets or thoughts that you see in the industry, or, what do they look like?
They'd rather be, winning jobs, doing building, and really a lot of times I've seen safety as an afterthought because there's just more important things. When I'm working with contractors and business owners, their phone's going off the hook. They're trying to get bids out. They're trying to manage jobs. There's just a million different things. Materials are late. I mean, there's more and more problems today too with scheduling and all the COVID restrictions, all the material problems. So there's so many balls in the air that safety just gets overlooked.
So I think what I'd like to do, and this can be a little bit fun, but I'd like to paint the picture. Now, some people have had situations that have happened that cost their organizations a lot of money, But what I'd like to do here is maybe dive into some thoughts or some things that you've seen that, without being super specific, obviously, but giving some things that you see of how this has impacted businesses is maybe as far as cost, because I agree with you 100%. Business owners are so busy. They're on the phone, they're getting this, they're delayed in that. And until they really understand that this has substantial cost, they're not really going to maybe give it the attention that they need. So I'd like to just take a little time here and let's try to paint the picture of what this can be and why it's so important.
Right. I mean, the biggest thing is injuries. So job site injuries are, the biggest risk, and work comp insurance is probably the biggest part of most contractors' insurance premium. But luckily, work comp is, I like to say, the one part of insurance that is completely controllable. Accidents will happen from time to time. They won't happen as much if you have better safety practices. But a work comp injury, soft tissue injuries are usually the knees, the back, and the shoulders. So if we just take a shoulder, for instance, rotator cuff surgery can cost 150 grand and 4 to 6 months away from work. If any contractor that's had a bad injury knows that there's something called an experience mod rating. And when you're small, you start off at 1. When your premium goes up, generally about $7,500 in premium to $10,000 or more, then you get this experience mod rating score. And if the less injuries you have, the lower that goes, where you actually get a credit. When you have injuries, that mod score can go up over 1 and start charging. It's a debit mod then, so you're actually paying more. So 1 is like, in grade school, I would call it a C. It's average. That's the industry average. So if you're better than average, you're under 1. If you're having injuries and you're not as good, then you're going over 1. Now, the biggest thing, if you're in commercial contracting, is to get on job sites with general contractors. A lot of times, one of the qualifications is that your mod score needs to be under a 1, even to bid the job. So right away, if you're not able to bid on certain jobs because your experience mod went up because injuries are running rampant or you're not controlling them properly, then right away you're at a competitive disadvantage. Also, if your competitor is doing really good in safety and they're managing injuries correctly, they might have a 0.8 mod and you might have a 1.2 mod. That's 40 points where your bid number to factor in insurance is not going to be as competitive with your competitor. So it could really mean the difference between winning and losing work, and a job that can make or break your year. So usually this is for some of the larger contractors out there that it really affects. The largest GCs are very, very strict. When you think about the largest generals that are building some of the biggest projects, that's your Turner Constructions, your Mortensons, your Gilbanes. It's really hard to get on some of their job sites if that mod score goes up over 1.
So we look at a smaller contractor. How does it affect them in the sense of, let's say you start a business, you're not involved in the safety stuff, and then you have an accident? What are some of the immediate challenges that they might face?
How are you going to find anybody to replace the guy that's injured? What if he's out for 2-3 months? And hiring's already really, really tough. Every contractor I talk to asks me if I know anybody that they could hire. So for the smaller guys, it's really just a labor, big pain with the labor problem. With the larger guys, this mod, there's a lag year, and then your score goes up for 3 years afterwards. So a couple bad injuries could really inflate things. It's not just your work comp insurance carriers paying the money that year. You're going to get charged for 3 years after that lag year. So it's going to sting for a while. It doesn't go away very quickly.
When you look at people that don't understand this, because I think as new contractors, I don't think that they really grasp how important this is. When does it set in? I guess at an accident, but how do you get them to understand? I mean, hopefully this is a part that will help them understand, but how do you get them to understand how important this is in their business?
It's kind of hard. We have a mod analysis we run to show some hypothetical scenarios. A lot of times, unfortunately, they learn the hard way. And I try to coach some of these, I like to call emerging business owners, emerging contractors, on how to avoid these mistakes from the get-go. The problem is a lot of people aren't working with an insurance agent that's construction focused. So, I'm a construction risk insurance specialist. I've had special training. So, I would recommend, instead of going to a family or friend who just does insurance, make sure they have some construction knowledge, especially surrounding work comp. Because if you get to any size level, injury management and preventing injuries is just going to be key for the business. So, you have to have some good advice, network with other business owners that have been doing it longer than you. I'm sure the guy who is 20, 30 years down the line has had some stories that can relate to about a bad injury and how much that stung. So really network, talk to some of the guys who've been doing it longer. Make sure you get good advice from your professional network. Every contractor should have a good professional team around them of a good, potential attorney, a accountant, and an insurance guy that really can understand construction, because there is specific.
Thanks for listening to the show. I specialize in working with contractors and service business owners just like you. If you are your business and you're looking to do less, not more, if you have a great product or service, but deals aren't closing the way that you want, maybe you've grown so much and operationally it's been a mess. Maybe it's gaining back more time, better organization, and reducing stress. You know there's a better way to running your business. It's on you to take the first step. It's time. I can help. Go to www.bluecollarbusinesscoach.net and let's start by mapping out your current business versus what you want.
There is specifics that you really need to know to keep your competitive edge.
So kind of to summarize this so far, just so that it's clear in everybody's head, it would be, you basically get a score when you start business, and you get a good score, or let's say an average score, you get a C, like you said. So you get a score.
You start off with a 1, Seth, until you hit a certain premium threshold. And that's about, anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 in premium, depending on the state.
Perfect. So then you get a score. Most contractors probably don't even know that they have a score. A job required them to get workman's comp, so they got it, but they don't know that they're actually graded. And they think they're doing fine until there's an accident. And then they say they have coverage and they turn it in and it gets paid out. It's a rotator cuff. It's $150,000. So the person's out, they have lost time and everything else. Help maybe paint the picture that how this is different than auto, because some people might be saying maybe auto or some of these other insurances are the same thing. Are they the same? Are they different? Is this more expensive in the long run if you have a fender bender type of thing? What would you say to that?
Well, work comp can be controlled. So with the auto, things are going to happen on the road, and an adjuster will, figure out who's at fault, and their insurance company is going to have to pay the bill. It's pretty cut and dry. Vehicle values go up. Now, the caveat to that is, what if somebody gets injured in that auto and then it becomes a work comp claim as well? But, with work comp, basically preventing injuries is key, but knowing how to react to the injuries and teaming up with professionals that know the work comp system. So I like to say you hire your claims. The better you could screen your employees, which is tougher these days because there's less of a labor pool, the better off you'll be. But you're going to want to do a post-offer pre-employment physical if possible. We use a service, we have a strength testing machine that actually determines, it's isokinetic strength testing. It determines if the person is fit to do the job. So it actually tests the knees, the shoulders, and the back, and gives a rating. And that'll tell you right out of the gate if there's a pre-existing injury or if the person can actually do what the job requires. I mean, these are really labor-intensive jobs. So that's something I absolutely recommend. Drug testing is another huge one. I've heard contractors that said, I can't find anybody if I test for drugs. And unfortunately, if you really want to be safe, you can't. There's got to be a very strict no drug, no alcohol policies in place that need to be communicated right from day one. So besides strength testing, that stuff's going to help you really weed out some of the people that become potential claims in the future. But when a claim happens, you have to know, how to handle it, and you have to know how to play the work comp game. So basically, most states have something called a medical only discount, where if you could keep a claim medical only, meaning the insurance carrier doesn't have to pay a dime for lost wages. Usually there's a 72-hour waiting period where an employer has the ability to get the injured employee back to work. And if they could do it in those 3 days, then it becomes a medical only claim. So, say it's a smaller injury, maybe it's some stitches or, like a twisted knee or something that isn't a sprain, that's not too bad. You're going to want to make sure that you could get that employee back to work. Say it's $1,000. What'll happen is that in an NCCI state where Illinois is, and most states are governed by NCCI for work comp, there's a 70% discount. So what gets factored into your mod score in the future is not $1,000, but it's $300, and it's spread out over a 3-year period of time. So really, your mod isn't going to go up barely at all, and you're not going to feel the impact of a medical only claim. Now, when an injury goes beyond that 3-day waiting period and the insurance company has to pay an injured employee for lost time, it could be 1 day, but that claim dollar amount, as it gets factored in this algorithm of work comp, it's going to shoot the rates through the roof for what it does to your mod for the next 4 years. So, you really want to do everything possible to link up with an occupational health clinic. You can't force employees to go anywhere for medical attention, but you could simply say, hey, we have a clinic that we have an account with that'll probably be the same place you do your pre-employment physicals and drug testing. Those doctors are well aware of the work comp system. So instead of a doctor just saying, oh, you're a carpenter, you sprained your back, you're off 2 weeks, they might say, well, take it easy, but you could do this X, Y, and Z. And then what a lot of employers will do is find some type of light duty work. And usually employees will come to work, not do their full job, but just help out where they can. If it's cleaning, if it's organizing stuff, there's employers that actually send employees to do charitable work and some simple stuff and volunteer at charities while they're healing, so that they're still having an opportunity to pay them, so the insurance company doesn't have to. So I call it kind of a return to anything, not just return to work, because that's where you're really going to separate yourself and managing the injuries better than the next guy. A lot of times if they go to an ER, those doctors are just going to write, oh, you're off for a month or 6 weeks, whereas an occupational health doctor will say, you got to take it easy here, but you could still do X, Y, and Z. And that's what's really, really going to be impactful for minimizing those claims.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I mean, I like the way that you said about weeding people out, because when you think about this and you think about the construction industry, Were they just down the street and they got injured? Have they had something that's coming on or a symptom that is going to fall on your lap? And I really like how you guys are set up as construction based and you have a knowledge in this. I mean, the strength test, testing the knees, the back, shoulders. I mean, I'm hoping that people can see the value. I mean, because to me, it's a no brainer to say, why would you not work with somebody? Why would you not have somebody to help screen your people so that you can see if this is going to be a problem down the road? So it's great to have those things. And I think you did a great job of separating between maybe just basic insurance and somebody that specialized. This is what you do in the construction. You get it. You understand the challenges, you understand what it takes, and you can advise them. So, I mean, that's really.
And the problem with strength testing, Seth, is that it's an extra cost during the hiring process. And, it's an extra couple $100 per employee, potentially. We actually had a nationwide service contractor that used to fly their pre-hire candidates or as post-offer pre-hire candidates to Chicago through O'Hare International to just run through this strength testing machine. It only takes 20 minutes. So they would fly them in from all over the country, put them up in a hotel for a night even, and fly them back just to make sure that this happened. Now, there are some resources that the company we use has these machines in different states now. But that shows the impact that this could have, that certain companies, the companies that use it, they absolutely swear by it because they've learned the hard way, and they'd rather, reject 15 to 20% of the applicants because they're just not fit to do the job before it becomes a big problem. So
I'd like to see, is there a way to just kind of put a rough example? Because I know what happens when you listen to something, you say, well, that's great, I'd like that, but they may not still connect the cost. And what I would love with this episode is, now, if you've had workman's comp claims and you went down this road before, you get it. You know that this is something. So if you're not getting properly advised, you got to reach out to Sam and make sure that you're talking the construction talk with him. But I want to really speak now to the people that haven't had a claim yet. You're just starting your business. You are the people that you don't really know about this. And I really want you to dive in here. So there's two things I'd like to do. One, I'd like to paint a picture and say, and you can pick the size of the company or whatever it may be, if it's $1 million company or a $50 million, whatever you think it is, what is the swing of the experience mod, without getting super detailed into it? But if you're at a 1.0 or you're a 0.8, again, this is your grading system that is grading how safe you are, and, to simplify the terms. If you're at a 0.8 and you go to a 1.4 or 1.5 or something like that, how much additional money is that costing? And that could happen with one event.
Correct. You never know. I mean, if it's a terrible injury, it could skyrocket things. If there's, God forbid, a paralysis or a permanent disability where it's going to affect an employee for the rest of his life, I mean, you could see some of the worst things. And actually, those hit your work comp premium worse than even a fatality. So, but basically, let's just use $100,000 of work comp premium, just to make it easy on the numbers. So if your manual rate of work comp is 100,000 and your mod's a 1.0, you're going to pay $100,000. Now we have a software that'll show what your minimum mod could be. And minimum mods can change based on how large a company is. So how much work comp they're paying in premium. So about $100,000 account, let's say their minimum mod is a 0.8. So that right off the bat could save them 20 grand right there on their regular premium. Certain states have extra credits, things like that they could slap on top of it. I've seen people with $120,000 work comp manual rate premium only pay 60 grand. So, depending on the state and how things work, you could really drive $120,000 premium down to 50 or 60 grand when you're really safe and you don't have any claims. Now, let's say you're a contractor, you're minimum mod and you're doing well, but all of a sudden you have a year where you have a bunch of injuries. All of a sudden carriers start looking at your account for the renewal quotes and they're like, oh, they're not doing so good. We haven't seen anything corrective action wise, or we're not hearing a good story. So we're going to drop those credits and then the mod goes up. So it's like a snowball effect. So that 0.8 goes up to let's just say a 1.2 mod, which still isn't terrible. I've seen a lot worse. I saw a 2.19 the other day, which just blew my mind. But now let's think about it. So it goes up to a 1.2. They lose their credits because they're having bad years. So all of a sudden that calculation goes up to 120 grand when they may have been paying 80,000 manually with credits on top where it's 60. So literally $60,000 a year just in work comp premium. Plus you might not get better rates on the general liability and all the other rates because your company just doesn't look as safe. So, my job essentially is convincing underwriters that it's a good risk and it could be a profitable account for them to write the business on. And when there's a bunch of claims, that just gets harder and harder and harder. And you don't get the best rates when there's a lot of claims. So the safer you are, the less claims there are, the more you're going to save on your whole entire account once those injuries go down. So it could have a dramatic effect, when you think about the swing from 60,000 to 120, and it just gets amplified the bigger and bigger premium it is. And $10,000 for even a small contractor, if the mod goes up a little bit, could be a new piece of equipment, could be more safety resources, could be the difference between buying a new vehicle for the employees or something like that makes the job better. So that's money that goes straight to the bottom line.
And I call these things hidden costs because business owners don't actually think about these costs, but they wonder, and this is I always call it the $1 million question. How's your bank account look? Because if your bank account is lacking, if you're not happy with that, if you're not happy that there's not more money in there on the side of being a contractor, there's certain things that you can look at and certain adjustments that you can make that could be robbing that bank account. Having the wrong premium to me is almost like having all these automatic payments. It just takes it out of your bank account. And that was a great example to say, you could be paying 60,000 or you could be paying 120. That's a $60,000 swing in that example. And obviously it's scalable to whatever business size you are. But if you can control your costs at up to $60,000, like you said, that falls to the bottom line. That ends up in your bank account. And a lot of contractors don't understand that this is actually driving the lack of money, which if you don't have that, it leads to this challenge and that challenge, and it's a circle, but you don't actually see it this way. So I think it's great that you're doing is trying to bring awareness and do this. So what would, let's say somebody wants to be safe and they're listening to do that. What are maybe 3 or 4 steps or keys that you have to help guide them to this on this journey?
Sure. It starts with the right mindset every day is let's go home safe. And a lot of companies now, because it is a labor intensive job, they'll start with a little talk every morning and they'll also do a flex and stretch. So that's just a quick little 5-10 minute warm up. Guys will talk about what they need to do for the day, what risks, and they'll kind of swing their arms around and warm up and do some stretching. And that's proven to be a huge success for any company where there's a lot of manual labor. So, that's kind of the day-to-day you want to talk about. You want to continuously communicate, strive for continuous improvement. How can we do things better? Can we lift using our knees versus our back? So communication is key, but you got to have these policies in place. You have to have a formal written process that's not just something off the shelf that anybody could use, but you want to customize it to your company. So if you're an electrician, you're going to have safety topics in there that are different than a concrete guy or a carpenter. So electricians are going to have lockout tagout procedures, whereas concrete guys will have a whole nother set of things they need to worry about. So you're going to want to customize a safety plan. You could hire safety consultants. A lot of insurance agencies that are construction specific have safety resources. So you want to get that formal plan in place, and you want to get your new hires reviewing all those points. So it's going to be the most boring day of their life when they first start, but at least they know, they review all the policies and procedures, and they know how to react in certain situations. So, this kind of carries over into fleet safety and auto safety. So, auto rates are going through the roof all the time. There's more distracted driving going on. So if anybody's driving one of your vehicles, you want to put all the fleet safety in there, defensive driving, no cell phone use policies, no, seatbelt use policies. You absolutely want to have that. So, you're covering your back too. So if there is a claim, when you're documenting a formal safety process, and you show that an employee's reviewed everything, you could show an underwriter or an insurance carrier, hey, this was just a fluke accident. This is our safety plan. This is the topics we've gone through every week. Here's the employee's signature that he signed off on not using a cell phone while he was driving. This is something that we're going to have to take immediate action to disciplinary action to either fire him or give him a written warning. So this is the exception, not the norm. So basically that plan's going to have different topics per trade. It's going to have fleet safety is going to be a huge part of that. Communication, there's something called near miss reporting, where it actually encourages employees to talk about near misses on job sites. Like, wow, that was a close call. So you don't want an employee hiding stuff. You want to create a culture where people are being open and communicating and helping each other out and watching each other's backs. Like, we're a team. Let's make sure that, everybody's telling somebody about a hazard. So on big, large job sites, there's materials moving around. There's machines moving around. One of the best pieces of advice I've heard is something called the 20-20-20 rule, where every 20 minutes, they ask the workers just to stop for 20 seconds and look 20 feet around them to see what's changed. So, and if they've seen something that's changed and there's somebody close by, they're talking about it. So it's not rushing. But you want to have everything in writing. You want it to be reviewed. You want to document, consistent training throughout the year. And that's going to help you if there is a claim to show that, you were doing the right things. This was just an accident, a real accident. So, that's job site hazard analysis 101 right there. So.
Yeah, that's when you look at some of the other things, is there any other things? I know you mentioned auto, is that just all a part of like the risk management? Are those kind of like all your four keys?
Yeah, the four keys are, basically the safety culture needs to be in place. And that's from formal safety plans through just the little things that guys are doing to watch each other's backs on job sites. So, that's number one, and that's going to permeate through the rest. The number two is knowing how to play the work comp game. The third key to success is buttoning up the auto, making sure that people are trained in defensive driving. They're not rushing. You're not putting pressure on the guys to get to places faster, get there safe. Like I told before, there's certain policies around no cell phone use. If an auto a lot of mistakes that are made with auto coverage is when a business owner is first getting in business, the vehicle is actually registered to them personally. So we look at that stuff to make sure that the auto is actually on the company's policy, so that if there is, God forbid, a terrible accident, that your personal assets are going to be at stake in a big claim scenario. So you want to make sure the vehicles are titled to the business, or there's a simple lease agreement that leases that vehicle to the company from you personally. And that kind of leads into risk transfer. Risk transfer is the fourth key to success. If you're hiring subcontractors, you want to make sure that when they screw up, say it's your contract on the job with the owner, and you're hiring some subs to fill in some gaps, you want to make sure that there's a piece of paper and a contract in place between you and your subcontractors. Otherwise, their mistakes become your claims. And without that piece of paper, they're not, there's no guarantee that the responsible party's insurance will be used. So insurance is getting tougher and tougher for high risk businesses like construction. So it's really, really important to button up those four areas and have a contract in place if you are using any subcontractors.
So do you have some of those resources, like either documents, or you can do an assessment or a risk assessment with organizations?
Absolutely. We, our organization calls it a safe assessment. And really we come in and we review, a bunch of different topics, from top to bottom. And really we go to job sites to do a mock OSHA inspection. So our guy will show up to a job site and basically act like he's an OSHA inspector, and we'll run a report that shows what could be improved. And there's the Department of Labor has 3 classifications for average or below average, or best in class or industry leader. So if there's areas of improvement, we'll analyze all the policies, the procedures, what guys are doing on job sites, PPE, are guys wearing the safety glasses and the steel toe boots? And I just drives me nuts if I see, people going up on heavy machinery without fall protection. So if anybody's using scissor lifts or boom lifts, that stuff all needs to be analyzed to make sure all the bases are covered. And there's so much to it that really it's good to have an outside party come in, do an audit on all those points, show you the areas of improvement, and then create a service plan to be better, throughout the year. And that's hard when you're busy and you're making money and you got a million jobs going on, and it's tough to hire. It's hard sometimes to do, to kind of step back and analyze this stuff. And that's why if you could do it early on, when you're a smaller company and you build that foundation, then it's just, slightly adjusting certain things, and you could really grow without setbacks.
I love that, grow without setbacks. The other thing I love is the safety culture. So the mindset of, hey, we can't get anybody because if we drug tested, we wouldn't get anybody. That culture that you're building is allowing that, and it enables it to stay around. So the owners that can take a stand and do that are ultimately the ones that get that culture, build that culture. And the most important thing that I love about that is you attract the people that want to be in that culture. So if you don't do those steps, you're actually attracting people that don't want those steps. And then your rates go up $60,000 or more. It could be, it's robbing your bank account. So I encourage you to take these steps, make sure that you do them, make sure that you look into this, and know that you can take a stand to have a safe culture. You can take a stand to do this, and it will change your business. So where are you located, and can anybody do this? Does it have to be in your immediate area, or how do you work with the contractors outside of the area? And if they want to contract or contact you, how do they get a hold of you? Because I think they should.
I appreciate that, Seth. So we're located in 5 states in the Midwest, but we could write business anywhere. It may be tough to do a job site visit if you're in California for us, and we might not be the best fit in that scenario. But we have customers in New York, we have customers in Florida, and we could help. With the people being more open to technology and virtual meetings, we can absolutely help anyone anywhere. If it's just reviewing insurance premiums and that sort of thing, we could advise and go through wherever. So, we're a top 50 broker. We're headquartered in Illinois. We have offices in Michigan, Indiana, Illinois. We have a couple, Wisconsin and Minnesota, and we'd be more than happy to help, advise people so that you could get ahead of this stuff. And if you have had some pain, it's not the end of the world. It's just about corrective action. You guys could reach me on my cell phone at 262-758-4439 anytime. Feel free to use me as a resource if you have questions about any one of these 4 points. My email address is sam.v as in Victor, EITH at thehortongroup.com. So I really appreciate the ability to come on and get some exposure and share some knowledge, and hopefully everybody could grow and use that can-do attitude to build the momentum that Seth's talking about, to really grow their business and not have some of these issues.
Yeah, really, really great points. Again, if you haven't had the issues, make sure you get them taken care of before they happen. And if you have, reach out to Sam, let him talk you through some areas that can help you get back on track and put that money back in your bank account. Some quick fire questions to wrap up. The construction industry would be better if
everybody took ownership of being safe and had more of a positive mindset around safety culture.
Awesome. If I could travel anywhere, where would you go?
It's a very good question. I'm fairly well traveled, but I would love to go. To like Bora Bora and sleep over the ocean in one of those little tiki huts. So that's definitely on the bucket list. Or like something like Australia and the Great Barrier Reef. So I'm a big water guy.
That's awesome. Biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge is just, finding people to work with that believe in continuous improvement and wanting to be better and not just using excuses sometimes that, stuff just happens. I think, there's a definite difference between the guys that believe that there's no such thing as an accident versus the guys that think, well, something, it just happens once in a while. So I think that's the challenge is, just changing the mind frame and with certain owners in the industry.
I really like that there's no such thing as an accident, because that's actually taking ownership and making sure that things don't happen. So I think that's really powerful. I think people should really lean into that. Your biggest skill is
just trying to relate some of this really tough insurance knowledge in layman's terms. I think I do a pretty good job relating to my contractor customers and helping them understand some of this a little bit better than the insurance lingo that's out there. Like, for instance, we're in a hard market. Insurance people don't like to tell you that just means the rates are going up and the coverages are getting bad. So they like to create a term. But I'm kind of a no BS guy, and I'll just tell it to you straight. And that's kind of where my strong suit is, just being straight up.
Awesome. Last thing you got on Amazon?
Fishing equipment. I'm a big fishing. Yeah, I was looking for a lure the other day, so I think I found one of the ones for spring. So having a little cabin fever. I don't ice fish too much, but getting ready to rig up some new electronics on the boat and getting excited for the spring already.
That's awesome. Favorite tool or piece of equipment?
That's a good question, because that can mean a lot of different things. I was in the equipment business, and I I loved equipment that just built, efficiencies for contractors. There's a lot of things that guys do manually that you would never think about a piece of equipment can do. Guys, there's all these attachments for skid steers and things. And I don't know if I could boil it down to one piece of equipment.
Is there a brand?
Not so much a brand. Honestly, there's that's such a can of worms there, Seth. We could have a whole discussion about equipment, and I could bring one of my equipment colleagues on board. But there's some really cool things for like flooring contractors. Flooring's really tough to pull up. And there's these floor machines that are either electric or propane, and you could just fly and scrape up all sorts of flooring with the blades. And I saw that like cut down the time it took to pull up flooring and redo floors really well. So I forget the brand of these flooring machines, but like the Terminator or something. But they were a really nice piece to rent because it was a good rental cost for me too. But they really helped, talk about something that's going to, prevent injuries. That piece of equipment will probably help from guys blowing out their shoulders and backs and doing some really hard manual labor. So
I want other owners in construction to know what?
Safety will save you money. Being safe saves you money.
Boom, there it is. Sam Veith, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for contributing to knowledge around insurance and the benefits of it. Really appreciate everything that you shared, and I'm confident that people will have takeaways, and this will change their business, put more money in their bank account.
Thanks a lot, Seth. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Like and share with other contractors. Start studying you to unlock